Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Pastor Damon Martin.
And I'm Demon Nun Patrick Guerra.
And Patrick, this week, as we gear up for what is being teased as the final film in the Conjuring saga, I guess is the best way to say
Sure.
it. I don't want to say franchise, there's like 9 other spin-off films, but the Conjuring series, we are tonight diving into the original sequel, The Conjuring 2.
Damon The Conjuring 2, released in June of 2016, starring the likes of legendary Bonnie Aarons as the demon nun Valak, Bob Adrian as nasty old Bill Wilkins, and we've got Simon McBurney as Maurice Gross, Franca Potente as Anita Gregory, and let's see, Frances O'Connor as Peggy Hodgkins, Madison Wolfe as Janet Hodgson, Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren, and Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren. As you mentioned, Damon, written by a whole lot of people, including Chad and Carrie Hayes, James Wan, and David Leslie Johnson, with a budget, Damon, of $40 million. That's a nice big studio budget, and a gross worldwide box office haul of, hold your horses, $322.8 million. James Wan directed, of course. Damon, love it or hate it, the Conjuring universe is a cash cow.
It really is. And it's weird because if you go back and listen to our original episode on The Conjuring, we did that one before the last sequel came out, The Devil Made Me Do It. And we're doing this one before The Conjuring Last Rites drops in theaters in a couple of weeks. And if you remember that episode, I it's not that I wasn't a fan. I just never really seen the Conjuring films, and I think it's pretty clearly stated why I never saw the Conjuring films because if you've listened to this podcast for more than about 5 minutes, you know my least favorite genre of horror film, the one that just pisses me off the most, are haunted house films because I understand horror characters are just traditionally ingrained to make bad, dumb decisions. That's kind of like, the campers going out to pork in the middle of the woods when there's a killer out there. It's just like you just know they're going out there to get butchered. But my problem with haunted house films traditionally are it's just such a simple problem to solve. Get out, leave. And when that doesn't happen and it almost feels like that option is never explored, it just bugs me because I'm just like, why would you just not, like, at least in Poltergeist, which is one of my all-time favorite horror films from when I was a kid, because that movie scared the piss out of me when I was a child. At least they gave the excuse that Carol Ann got sucked into the television set so they couldn't leave their daughter behind. At
Right.
least that gave like some bit of excuse why that family had to stay there. Pretty much every other haunted house film is the same premise. It's haunted, crazy shit happens, and the family just stays. And it just bothers me because it's the simplest problem to solve. Get out. I know you're poor. I know you don't have anywhere to go. Live in your car. It's better than living in a haunted house. So, traditionally, I've just not been a haunted house guy, but I will say, for the most part, I enjoyed The Conjuring. It had some good scares, good acting, and I always say when you can put good actors in a pretty well written script, you're going to be a step ahead of the competition. And I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are amazing. I love both of them. After we watched The Conjuring, and I can't remember what year that came out, was it 2021, whatever it was when that came out, the
Something
last
like
one.
that. Yeah.
I actually sat down and finally watched The Conjuring 2 because The Conjuring was good enough to where I was like, I'm curious what the next one does. And I remember sitting down to watch The Conjuring 2, like maybe 2 weeks later or a week later, and I was like, I actually really like this one. It was scarier and I think better made than the original Conjuring. So when it came time to review this one, I was pretty excited because I was like, we've not given positive reviews to The Nun or The Nun 2, which are just not good films or good horror films even really. And The Devil Made Me Do It, we didn't really give a great review too. That wasn't a great horror film if I'm being honest. It was pretty dull and pretty not great. The Conjuring we did, and so tonight I was kind of excited because I'm like, at least here's another one that I can give a pretty positive review for because I did like it a couple years ago. It didn't really fall off in the few years since, and I say that because I know the audience. Not, I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but generally, The Conjuring's a very beloved series.
Damon, it's crazy. It's another one. It's like Final Destination where this shit just makes money. And of course, if you didn't realize, there's a new Conjuring movie coming out. What's it called? Conjuring Devil
Last
May
Last Rites.
Last
Conjuring Last
Rites.
Rites, yes.
Conjuring Last Rites, which is supposedly the final nail in the Conjuring franchise. We'll see about that. Um,
At least with the Warrens' involvement, like with Ed and Lorraine, yeah,
we'll
that's a
see
good
about
sign.
that. I'm kind of with you on haunted houses. I think I get pretty frustrated with them overall. And for anyone who doesn't understand, like this movie came out in 2016. This is spoilers all the way through.
Oh
We don't
yeah,
have
sorry. I
there's
should.
no spoiler section on this movie at all. I'm not a huge haunted house person for the same reason. It's just like, well, like just leave the place. At least with The Conjuring 2, we meet this Hodgson family. They are destitute. I mean, they live in government housing. They can't go anywhere. There's really nowhere that for them to go other than a neighbor's house right across the street, right in the reach of this whatever this terrible entity that has gotten a hold of them. So at least without hammering it over our heads, it makes sense why they're not going anywhere. There's nowhere to go. This is a very, very poor family, and they don't they it's a family of, I believe, four. I think there's like four kids, three or four
Four kids
kids.
and a mom. Four kids and a
Four,
mom. So five
four
altogether.
kids and a mom. I mean, they're not going many, and the house itself is in massive disrepair. They're just down on their luck people that can't go anywhere. So at least that much of it makes sense. Outside of that, Damon, not only am I not a haunted house fan, I'm not really a Conjuring fan. And boy, the box office just flies in my face. They go, we don't care what you think, Patrick. We rake in the dough. James Wan's laughing all the way to his private island somewhere because holy shit, do these movies make money? They're very popular. I think haunted house movies are popular. I think a lot of people like them. It's just not for us in particular. It's not for this crowd in particular. But The Conjuring as a series overall, I think what I appreciated most on this current watching, because just like you, I think I watched The Conjuring 2 right around the same time. I found it to be like I took a step back because I was like, man, I'm just not into these Conjuring movies. But then I took a step back and I thought about what exactly the Conjuring movies are in the context of horror cinema. Throughout the 2000s, I think starting with Insidious, I think Insidious started everything, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Insidious started it all, but this kind of this James Wan sort of universe like popped itself up, and it found a home at Warner Brothers. And what I realized when I was sitting down watching this Conjuring movie, it's got a real budget, Damon. $40 million is a very big budget for a horror movie. I don't care what it is. That's a great big old budget, and it shows on screen. And what you're really getting here is studio horror, like you used to get back in the day. I mean, movies like The Exorcist and The Omen, Poltergeist, all of those were all studio films. They were films that were backed and directed by known commodities. They were supported by big studios on big studio lots. You get a big studio experience. Maybe because you get a big studio experience, you get something that's, I would say, a little more watered down. Some people find these movies frightening. I don't in the least. But what you do get is just sort of that studio horror movie. And I was like, well, it is interesting to sit back and watch a movie like this, knowing that it's bigger budgeted and all the budgets on the screen. You can see it. You start with great actors like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and then you have great, special effects, great sets being built, great cinematography. It's all there. I guess not on this on this podcast, maybe less. We don't review a lot of like low quality movies, but they're out there
Oh
in
yes.
droves. And I mean, there's much more kind of B level, homemade. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, there's a lot of horror movies that are a little rough around the edges. We review some of them. Some of them were like, okay, yeah, that wasn't like the most slickly made movie. So I did this time around. The appreciation that I took out of it was, well, look at Warner Brothers out there cashing in big. I mean, real big. With all their financial stress that they've been going through over the years, they certainly don't stress when they put these movies out. They do well, but the quality is on screen, and I wonder. if somewhere down the line, like in 20 years, whatever is a podcast at that time, and whoever's doing podcasts at that time will look back on movies like the movies in the Conjuring universe and go, look at this when a big studio was out there putting out these horror movies for everybody that existed in this big universe. It is quite it's quite the achievement for James Wan and company because you think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is now going on about 15 years, I think, something like that.
2008, so it's 17 years.
17 years. And you look at the Conjuring universe that is going on 10 or maybe over 10, maybe over a decade now.
I think it was 2013. I think was when the original one came out, if I'm not
So
mistaken.
yeah, just
So
over a decade. And a cash cow, a very, very profitable, very recognizable horror franchise. Like, I don't think I've ever had to look at it that way before, but on that level alone, Damon, I'm pretty impressed.
can I want to ask this question, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off base here, but I'm just curious because we've talked about this before on the show when when we reviewed movies like Seven, even Silence of the Lambs, and I know those are exaggerated serial killer movies, but we've said that a lot of times when you talk about a horror film that could actually happen, like serial killer movies, for the most part, are things that either have happened or could happen because it's just a person, a man, a woman, a group of people killing people. Like, home invasions. I've always said, like, The Strangers. It's scary on its own, but it's also scary because, in a way, it could happen to you. Like, you could just have a bunch of psychos, like, break into your house. It's happened before, and it could happen again. Home invasions are terrifying. And I've always said, like, those, when you can relate to a film on that level and you can think to yourself, this could happen to me, I think it does make it scarier, especially to a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of, like, even non-horror fans, like, man, that terrifies me because I know it could happen. Now, I'm not trying to turn controversial here, Patrick, but I think it's been well documented on the show that you and I are not religious guys. We're both, non-religious folks. But even I, as a kid, in my kid brain, even a little older than that, hauntings and ghosts and things like that we've all had those experiences, right? Like, this house is haunted, this object moved without us knowing what it was, this door closed mysteriously, ooky sounds. We've all experienced that, right? Like, I don't, whether you believed it was real or not, from some age at some point something creeped you out, or your friend's house, or your grandparents' house, or whatever it was. Something was creepy about that. Everyone's kind of had that experience or heard about that experience, or has a family member that had that experience. And I would wager to say probably at least half of the film going audience that's into horror either believes or could believe in a haunting or a ghost or something of that nature. And that kind of speaks to, like, this could happen. Now, while the Conjuring films are clearly exaggerated versions of that, that's, in a way, so is Hannibal Lecter, so is John Doe, so is, a lot of things. So I wonder if these films don't appeal on that level where, no, you don't imagine that you're going to have your daughter get possessed by a guy who used to live in your house and there's a demon nun named Valak haunting you and trying to take over your house or whatever. But I think a lot of people have experienced some sense of the paranormal at home, at school, somewhere. And these films take that fear and just ratchet it up to 100. And I think there's a certain appeal to that, right? And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm throwing that idea out to you, Patrick, because I thought about that when I was watching this last night. Because everyone can relate to living in a house, raising kids, and something creepy happens. And I mean, listen, I'm saying this as a non-believer. Like, creepy things have happened to me, and I just don't go straight to,
Yeah.
it's a ghost. I don't go to, like, that door closed. Oh man, what pushed that door closed? I just think, oh, it was wind, or the door was heavy on one end, or it's summertime. It's weighted down by humidity, and the door closed. Whatever. I don't immediately go to that, but a lot of people do. And I wonder if that's not the appeal because everyone has had some sort of. I mean, you were talking about this last week on Strange Harvest when you talked about that weird object you saw in the sky when you were younger. Now, you never chalked it up and said, I know it's aliens, but you never were able to explain what it was. It was a creepy, kind of haunting experience, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think that speaks to what the Conjuring films are doing, because everyone's had that. And I can't help but wonder if that's not part of the appeal, because everyone's experienced that. And even if you don't immediately go to ghost or haunting, you're like, ooh, I remember one time I was at my grandparents' house and I went down to the basement and there was something down there. I didn't know what it was. It was in the corner and I just ran upstairs, screamed, and went to my bed and slept and never heard, never saw about it again. Everyone's had that experience. So I wonder if, like, watching the Conjuring film, it's almost like, in a weird way, like a warm blanket of like, oh, it happens to everybody kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I'm off base, but I had that thought.
Well, if you think about it, and I bet everybody that, for the most part, I would say, and like you're saying, about 50% of people, I bet they'll say, "Oh yeah, I had a paranormal experience when I was a kid." It's almost always that. And I would say that 50% lies in there. There's a smaller percentage that goes, "Nope, it's happening to me now." And that percentage is, cuckoo birds. But I'm not judging. I'm just saying. Um, so I think what movies like The Conjuring and haunted house films, even film like Poltergeist, which was it was a cultural phenomenon. That was a big movie. It was not a small movie by any stretch. Big movie. I think it appeals to the base fears that we get as kids when you don't know that something's going on, and you don't know how to explain it. You chalk it up to the paranormal because when you're a kid, that's the most exciting and stimulating way to explain away whatever just happened. It had to have been the supernatural. And so that appeals to, even as an adult. You go, yeah, I want to have that feeling again. I like that. Haunted house movies do very well. Clearly, the Conjuring universe does incredibly well. It really does. The idea of haunted objects and demons trapped in objects and shit like that works very well for people. And so I do think it's one of those path of least resistance type horror movies. You talked about this a few weeks ago. I don't think slashers appeal to the mass audience like they did anywhere, like they did in the 1980s. I think something has changed in the zeitgeist overall that that doesn't appeal to everybody as much anymore. But I think we can all relate to the idea of when we were kids being in a spooky house, having a spooky grandparent or an aunt or uncle or somebody, and having those moments you can't explain. And that's just exciting. And why wouldn't you want to tap into that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's natural. And I'm a big believer in, like, as like, what's funny, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think if you notice, a lot of the stories about these classic hauntings, like the Amityville Horror, which was, pretty much, proven 100% to be a complete hoax, but the infield poltergeist, the infield haunting, which is what this is based upon, or any of these other stories that they're doing the Conjuring films are on, with these, like, quote unquote, based on a true story. These happened at a time when it was harder to explain the creepy, the ooky,
Oh
the
yeah.
spooky, because people just didn't have the ability. Like, at the end of the Conjuring 2, they play the real recording that Ed Warren made of little, what's her name in the movie, Janet Hodgson,
Janet, yeah.
who was, supposedly possessed by the spirit of this ghost. And in 1970s technology, what you have to tape is pretty creepy. Like, it sounds, and they've done audio recordings, they've dissected it and said, oh, it's not real, whatever. But I'm saying, like, in 1978, you couldn't really explain it away. But with technology where it's at in 2025, you could take I mean, I have tons of audio equipment on my computer that I edit with every day because I do podcasting as, like, a living. I can dissect out audio clips and really, get down into, like, the nitty gritty of what's in there and editing and things like that. That wasn't possible in 1978 or 1975 or when all of these stories took place. And I guess, like, I guess it's a joke to me, but I'm like, do you notice in, like, 2025, you don't hear these stories about these elaborate hauntings much anymore
No.
because they're so much easier to disprove in this day
Yeah.
and age, right? Like, I mentioned this on one of our episodes recently. I think it was Strange Harvest, where I talked about, like, TikTok videos where they're like, I captured this video of a door closing and a picture shaking. There's a, like, the vast majority of people now would be like, come on now, like, this is not real.
Yeah.
We know it's not real. But in 1978, 1975, all these years where a lot of these, mysterious hauntings happened, they didn't have the technology to just immediately disprove it. So
Yeah.
I think that's part of it because I read up getting ready for this podcast. I read up on the infield poltergeist, which is what this is based upon, and I read a ton of studies about how like it was disproven this and disproven that, and like it was all a hoax and it was a setup for the children and the parents, and like it's been pretty much disproven down to the very core of what this story was. But it wasn't that 1977 through 79 when this happened. It was a massive, massive story in England, and it spread and got here to the United States, which is why the Warrens actually did travel there very briefly. They weren't nearly as involved as the movie makes them be, but I think that's why you don't in 2025. I don't remember the last time I ever heard anyone taking a
No.
haunting seriously. Like I don't remember the last time I heard a story or something went viral of like this house is haunted.
Yeah.
Do you like? Have you heard these
No.
stories? Like,
No, it's gone away. It's like it's even Bigfoot sightings today. You know, like Bigfoot sightings were still such a big deal when I was a kid. All that stuff is going away because it's like, well, you got 4K cameras now. And now you have to be really good at faking. You didn't have to be that good at faking back then. You've got to be so good at faking. And guess what? Now there's even AI. So people are like, let's say AI. I don't like no one will believe it if you made the best version possible now. Like it really is kind of over. And I know some people in the audience are going, no, damn it, it happened to me. Fine, show me proof of it. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying that these things cannot and absolutely do not happen. I'm saying the odds are so very low. And everything that came from that time period is exactly as Damon's saying. They didn't have ways to disprove it back then. It was just mysterious. It was on some analog tape, and you couldn't see the aberrations and the edits that are made and all that stuff. Couldn't do that back then. It was organically made, so it was so much easier with so much less knowledge base going around. And now hauntings are just they're going the way of the Bigfoot, Damon. It's not happening anymore.
I mean, if time travel was possible and you took an iPhone from this era and took it back to like 1980 and showed it to somebody, they think you got like a witchcraft phone or something because it's the technology has changed and advanced so far. Like they didn't have the internet in 1980. Like you trying to explain the internet to somebody in 1980, they think you're cuckoo. They think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because in 1980, that wasn't even a concept. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, as time passes, we get more technologically savvy. Things like this just don't happen. That's why I think, like, in 2025, you just don't. You still hear about possessions occasionally and exorcisms, things like that. But even that has gone, like, really, really far down the rabbit hole to where it's almost like if you watch the vast majority of exorcism movies in 2025 or of this era, almost every single one starts out with the premise of it's a mental health issue. That
Right.
wasn't the case, you know what I mean? I'm not saying they never like that was just like they just immediately go to that now. And then the movies, kind of oh, it really was a demon or whatever. But everyone understands like it's so hard to fool people in this
Yeah.
day and age with the technology we have. But I think what the Conjuring films and Conjuring 2 in particular has tapped into is just kind of like that story of yesteryear, so to speak.
Yeah. It's
Like
wistful.
that. Yeah, it's remembering a different time, and I'm not gonna lie. Like even as a guy who doesn't believe any of this is real, I'm just like it is compelling. They do a great job with the storytelling. It is a well plotted story and compelling enough characters, and it is creepy enough to where I can see why it works. Like I understand why these films are popular, right? Like I get it. Now I will say The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 were far far more effective for me than The Conjuring 3 was, and I have no
Yeah.
idea what we're necessarily going to step into with The Conjuring Last Rites. I know it's also quote unquote based on a true story. Another haunting from the 80s or whatever, back when that still happened. And I think they're going back to the roots of The Conjuring, where it's a family in a house being haunted, versus like the Devil Made Me Do It was a trial, and it didn't feel like a Conjuring film necessarily. At least to me, it didn't. But these first two films are very effective. They take place in one place. It's an investigation, and you're trying to figure out what is haunting these people. It's a formula. It's a tale as old as time, if you will. And James Wan, who is a very very craftful and capable director, understands how to plot this out. It's well written, it's well acted, and I always say like when you can have Peter, when you can have Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, and good actors in your movie, and you find a diamond in the rough like Bonnie Aarons to play Valak, you've crafted and put together all the pieces, and on top of that, as you mentioned earlier so astutely, you got $40 million to work with. This is not like this is not Blair Witch Project where they got like $10 and a couple cameras and like go out in the woods and film some shit. Like this is like we got $40 million. We're gonna make some shit shake and rattle and roll. We're gonna fill a basement with water. We're gonna get demons in here. We're gonna have all kinds of crazy shit. So the Conjuring films, like whether you like them or not, you can't say they're not crafted well.
They're made well, Damon, but here's where I start bumping up against The Conjuring 2. It is over 2 hours long, and boy, do you feel it. Um, it starts out with the Warrens. They're working with the Lutz family, but Elaine is getting visions. Elaine Warren's getting visions of
Lorraine,
uh,
Lorraine.
excuse me, Lorraine is getting. I knew that. She's getting visions of Ed dying, and she doesn't know what that's all about. She doesn't understand what's going on there. So there's sort of like a mystery behind like what's going on with Ed and Lorraine. Like what exactly is happening right now? And then they jump to the Hodgson family. Damon, I want to say they spend like 45 minutes haunting the Hodgson family in this movie. Any other time I would tell you that was great. You just kind of got into the haunting and you just haunt people, but you got to be careful what you wish for. Sometimes I think to myself, this is what I want out of the movie. Like, just get to the haunting stuff. If you're going to scare me, just scare me. So they do that, right? They get right into it. And this Hodgson family, Peggy and all her kids, they're getting terrorized by some evil spirit in their house. They do it for such a long and extended period of time in this movie that it just wears off. It's just haunting after haunting after haunting after haunting. And you're like, how? Show me something else. And then finally, it just gets to a point where there's so much haunting going on that everybody or the paranormal people there in England have given up. So they've called on the church, and the church has called Ed and Lorraine Warren out to check this thing out, to see if it's legit, to see if this girl needs an exorcism. So then that's basically the second half of the movie is Ed and Lorraine coming to their house and trying to figure the whole thing out. It just bogged me down. It was not it it's so weird to say when they give you what you want for that long that it didn't work, but it really didn't. I think you could have cut the haunting in half and even cut the Ed and Lorraine stuff in half. For me personally, I didn't need 2 hours, over 2 hours of this.
It's funny. Before we started recording, I told this story, and I'll tell it again on the podcast now. I'm not going to change my opinion that I like this movie. I do like this movie, and I do like it better than the original. Like of all the Conjuring films I've seen, this is my favorite. Now I don't know if that's necessarily setting the highest bar because I'm not a huge fan of this franchise, but
Right.
this is still my favorite one of the series. But what I did notice, so when I watched it a couple years ago, I liked it. I was like, this was fun. It was creepy. I really liked the introduction of Bonnie Aarons as the nun, and I still like the dynamic between Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. I was like, I dug it. I like it. It was a good movie. And I watched it last night. Now, granted, I watched it late at night because I was work. I've been super busy with work this week, and I just haven't had time. So I sat down. I watched Alien Earth because I had to watch that first, and then
Yes.
I was like, I need to watch The Conjuring because I've seen The Conjuring too, but I need to rewatch it for the podcast. And I put it on. It got pretty late. And I had a snack. I was on the couch. My girlfriend's in bed. And I'm like, I'm starting to get dozing. I'm like, oh God, I'm getting tired. And I was like, how much time is left? And I was like, I paused the movie. And I'm like, there's gotta be like 20 minutes left. Like it's that. It was 55 minutes left, and I was like, what in the fuck? I was like, 55 minutes? How is there still like in my head? I've seen this movie before, Patrick.
Yeah, I know.
In my head, I was like, oh, we're nearing the conclusion.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and I was like, we're nearing the conclusion. I paused at 55 minutes. I was like, how is there still 55 minutes left in this thing? Now, I'll flip it on you a little bit, and I'll say that I agree. The hauntings just take way too long. Now, I think my favorite part of the Conjuring series is the dynamic when you bring in Ed and Lorraine Warren, the
Sure.
investigators, and the dynamic that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga share. They are great. They are incredible. And that's where it got more interesting to me, just because it's like almost like the superheroes are here to save the day kind of thing. It just takes so long to get there. Like I didn't realize, like I didn't remember how much time they spent with the paranormal investigators from England in the
Yeah.
house before they finally get to Ed and Lorraine Warren. And then when they finally get to Ed and Lorraine Warren, it's another hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not changing my opinion to say I don't like this movie. I do. But my God, you could have edited this thing down to an hour and 40 minutes. Like it did not need to be 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And when I'm pausing the movie and saying, "Oh, I got 20 minutes left," and you still got another hour, that's not a good thing.
It's not it's not a good thing. And it's weird, like the Warrens disappear for almost an hour of the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be a solid 40 to 45 minutes where they just don't exist in the movie until you drag them back in to, now we've exhausted all options. It's like that's what I sat down for. I sat down for the Ed and Lorraine option. That's why I'm here. So what, like, and I felt the same way, I think a little bit about the original Conjuring. I felt the same exact way. You spent so much time with that family in that house that you forgot that it was a Conjuring movie. Like it was just a haunted house movie that all of a sudden starts to be an Ed and Lorraine Warren movie later on. And you're just like, oh God, I thought we were done. Like it's so weird to say that, but there is something about this series in particular where I'm like, I think I need less of your story. That should never be the case for some reason. The stories in the Conjuring universe don't particularly grab me. I don't know why. Maybe I don't who am I to say, Damon? I've never successfully written a feature length film that's been produced, that's actually been put out there into the world. I've written stuff, but not stuff that's been made. I just go at some point in the production process, don't you just go, this is too much stuff? And they don't seem to ever do that in The Conjuring. They go, no, more stuff. Put more things in. Make it longer. Make everything longer. And it just feels like it's longer for the sake of being longer. And I'm like, I, I don't find any of the Hodgsons so compelling that I need to keep seeing them until they start interacting with the Warrens. Then they get compelling. They get more compelling playing off of Ed and Lorraine. So I'm like, man, we really could have give me like two great hauntings with the Hodgsons, two good ones. And like for instance, they have what's they call it the tall man or the slender man or whatever his name is.
Yeah, the crooked man, the crooked man.
The crooked man. Like that's a whole setup and a payoff and all that stuff. And it honestly, did it really matter to the story? Not really. And it's not even like it's probably the least flattering, I think, of the effects. Like the crooked man's not really that good. Like as a scary thing in the movie. And even the guy William, the what's his name? William Bill something or other. The bad guy, the bad
Yeah,
demon guy.
yeah, Bill. I can't remember what his last name is.
Yeah, Bill whatever, who's the crotchety old man. Like even that stuff gets old after a while. It's like it's just an old man in the house yelling at them. And it gets tiring. And you go, "Okay, enough. We did it. You scared me with him 3 times ago. So, scare me once, good for you. Scare me 3 times the exact same way, shame on you. Like let's just keep this thing rolling, but for some reason they don't.
Let me give you an example of how you pace a movie with a similar ish setup, but you get people drawn into where A, the time doesn't seem as bad, and B, even with the compelling characters that are in the second half of the movie, you don't really think of it that way. And I'll give you The Exorcist, which I know is an all time classic. We reviewed
Yeah.
it. It's nearly a perfect film. Father Karras is in the movie early, but he doesn't really become a major character until about halfway through, and then we get the other priest who comes in even later, and when they're really trying to exorcise the demon from Reagan. What makes that movie different, what makes that movie better, is Reagan, the
Yeah.
character of Reagan, the way her situation ratchets up continuously, gets worse and worse. And by the time you get to the part where the priests show up to check on her and they realize some shit is off with this girl, you're drawn in because of Reagan. So Father Karras matters. All this stuff in the second half of the movie matters, but you've been drawn in by Reagan. The problem with The Conjuring 2, and while I'm not knocking the acting or the scenes that the kids are in. I'm not going that route saying like these are bad actors, but the haunting scenes just feel repetitive and drawn out. And while Janet does take kind of center stage because she's the one quote unquote possessed by Bill, it just feels long and it just slogs the movie down getting there. I didn't have that Reagan experience where I'm like, ooh, I feel so bad for this poor little girl getting tortured by this demonic spirit. And everything for her just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And by the time the priests show up, she's already been fucked up 6 ways to Sunday, right? Like we've already gone through the stabbing of the crotch and all. Like she's already gone through all that by the time the priests get there. And it felt like Janet, as you said, like the really weird shit with Janet doesn't happen until later in the movie once the Warrens are already there. If you wanted to give us 45 minutes of Janet and the Hodgsons, you really got to ratchet that shit up. You really got to give us like a
Yeah.
reason to be like, man, they're really going through it. I'm not saying what they went through in the movie it wasn't tormenting them. It was, but it just feels like we don't really get to the truly exciting incidents until the Warrens show up. So just get the Warrens there already and get moving.
It really did feel that way. And again, and let's not forget, the Warrens have their own B story, their whole own B story, which is like this idea that Lorraine believes Ed is going to die and she doesn't know why, and that's kind of a whole and that's a big drawn out part of the movie too. And a lot of the beats of the movie play into that as well. And it almost feels like it's funny you bring up The Exorcist. They parallel very well. The difference is they put way more time for some reason into both of these storylines. Whereas with Father Karras, you sort of get him, he goes away, and then he matters to the end of the movie. But you kind of tacked something onto the beginning that will wrap up the end very nicely. And you can argue that they do that here. They just do it much longer. Like it just takes much longer to do. And I think it was because they put too much weight on the family. Like, Margaret gets haunted, John gets haunted, like Billy gets haunted. Like she's got 4 kids that are getting haunted. Really, the movie's about Janet. It's about Janet being possessed by Bill. So get into that. Stick to that. And they didn't know, they were just like, oh, I like everything. Let's play with everything. It's like maybe not. Maybe trim some of this stuff away. Even the paranormal people in England, like that kind of like they throw so much out there on the screen, and a lot of it doesn't stick. A lot of it doesn't go. A lot of it, I don't go, man, I'm so glad they really spent time with Mr. Gross. Like Mr. Gross was so important to this movie. Like it doesn't pan out that way. So I just think it's a bloated movie overall.
Well, it's funny because when you read the stories about the real or, the supposed real Enfield poltergeist or Enfield haunting took place over 2 years, and the vast majority of the investigation was done by UK folks. Ed and Lorraine Warren showed up for like 5 minutes, and like they really didn't do anything. They did that
Yeah.
recording, and they did a couple of, but they were not there. They were not. They didn't solve it. They didn't do any exorcisms or anything. They showed up, and at that point, most people believed it was pretty much a publicity stunt because they had gotten so well known from the Amityville horror thing that they basically were like, "Ooh, a haunting? Let's show up. We're the Warrens. We got to take
Yeah.
advantage of this." And I wonder if, because they say based on a true story. Now, if you know anything about filmmaking, Patrick, I know you do, but like, for the audience, like, if you know anything about based on a true story, that's a very loose term when you say based on a true story.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite, like, action westerns is Tombstone. I love Tombstone. Adore that movie. I can quote that movie all day. But if you actually read up on what there's ERPs that are missing. Like the OK Corral, I read a lot of stories. I've seen a lot of historical data. Like the actual events of the OK Corral in Tombstone are pretty accurate, actually. But so much of the other film is just like exaggerated, never happened. Other people were involved. Like it turns into almost like an action movie. And they're like, I mean, there was a Wyatt Earp vendetta ride. But it's like, I think they said like 4 people died or something. They make it seem like it's this epic like battle on
Yeah.
horseback. But I get that's for the movies. I get it, it's for the movies. Like who will ever forget Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp? Like it's one of the most iconic. Who is ever going to forget the great Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday? That's my Doc Holliday. That's I don't care what you can make the most historically accurate version of that story ever, and I'm still going to say I don't care. Doc Holliday is Val Kilmer, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And so when you read the stories about the Enfield poltergeist, the Enfield haunting, the vast majority of the investigation was all the UK people. So I can't help but wonder when they do based on a true story, did the filmmakers, did the writers, did James Wan say we have to include them because they're really the ones who did this? Like the Warrens really had no place in this, but our characters are the Warrens, so we have to inject them in the story. My only criticism, I guess I would say, is listen, this movie is already so far off reality. Just go for it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying this. I'm not trying to disrespect Maurice Grosse. I think it was, and like it's a real person. Like he was a real person in the '70s. I'm not trying to disrespect that he played a part in this. I'm not trying to discredit his involvement or the woman played in the movie who's like the skeptic and like that was a real person in that time period. I'm
Right.
not disrespecting they were involved in this, but this is a movie and you are clearly gearing this to make the Warrens the heroes. So just do it. Like, just, I'm not saying that you can't have Maurice Grosse, you can't have the skeptic in there, but you can have them whittled down to 5 minutes and then bring in the Warrens. Because that's where you're trying to get us to go. You're trying to get us to where the Warrens come in to save the day. Just get there already. It feels like, that's what it felt like to me. You get 45 minutes of hauntings, which takes forever, as you said. Like, give me a couple of those and move on. And then you get another half hour of just like everybody but the Warrens while the Warrens are fucking off over in America. And then the Warrens finally show up, and then it's another hour, whatever it is. So it's just like, edit it down. You want the Warrens to be the heroes, just make the Warrens the heroes and move on.
Please spare us.
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. And like the whole based on a true story thing, it's just, yeah, like, it's weird.
Why don't you get into it, Damon? I know you're
Well,
chomping at the bit.
what's weird to me is like when most movies are based on a true story, you almost inherently the vast majority of people are like, I know this is probably mostly bullshit, like based on a true story. But like a lot of people are like watching these movies and almost taking it as testament. Like the Warrens were actual heroes and
Yeah.
demonologists, and they were creating all these exorcisms and stuff. And if you really do your research on the Warrens, like they were exposed as frauds so many times throughout history. Like they got famous for investigating this stuff, but they were like they didn't. You and I could show up in the same way and do what they did, and they'd be like, "Oh, Patrick and Damon are the heroes. They are the living dead guys saved the world." They were at the perfect time and place, as we've said, when you couldn't disprove a lot of shit, and they showed up and they made recordings and they made compelling cases. Like when you see the Annabelle doll in a case, warning, positively do not open, and they tell you it's got a haunted spirit in this Raggedy Ann doll. The real Annabelle is the Raggedy Ann doll. And you got like all these objects, they're all haunted objects. Don't touch any. It taps into that base instinct of like the fear, like, ooh, I don't
Sure.
know the haunting. And you mentioned the Crooked Man.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding when I say this. I think the only reason they put the Crooked Man in this movie was because the Crooked Man spawned out of a little carousel, that little
Hmm.
shadow box carousel that was like putting,
Yeah.
if you notice the end of the movie, Ed goes home and he unwraps that carousel and he puts it in their creepy haunted objects room, right? Their little Warren Museum room.
Yeah.
I think they only put the Crooked Man in there so they could get that payoff at the end of him going into the room so you can see Annabelle hanging out behind him and the other objects, because there was no other object. Like, there
Yeah.
was no other object that was haunted. Janet was the object. They're going to put Janet in the glass case back there at home? Like, no. So they had to have an object. What object can we have? Ooh, the carousel with the Crooked Man. We got to put the Crooked Man in
Yeah.
there so we can have
Maybe
the
we could do a
carousel.
sequel. Maybe if people love him, we can do a spin-off with the Crooked
We
Man.
could put the Crooked Man thing in the museum. I swear, I think that's why they did it, because they need to have that payoff at the end of going back into the haunted object room and putting it. I'm not listen. I'm not saying these investigations weren't real. I'm not saying the Warrens weren't real people. They were. But these movies, I'm just like, every time I watch them, I'm just like, please take this with a grain of salt, because you do 5 minutes of research. Even on this film, you could just do 5 minutes of research and realize they had nothing really to do with this case. this is a made for TV movie or whatever you want to say. Like this is
Yeah.
100% exaggerated to make them the heroes. They really had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, James Wan and company over there, they made this Conjuring universe, and at the center of it are these two characters. It's sort of Iron Man and Captain America is what the Warrens are. Really,
Yeah.
it's like how do we move these characters through so many different movies? It's again like kind of an interesting thing because I think they started around the same time that Marvel started, a little bit later, but basically they caught on to the idea and they were like, yeah, we can build a whole universe around this. But we just have to have something at the center of it, and that's Ed and Lorraine and their cabinet of curiosities. You know what I mean? This basement, this fabled basement with all these haunted items in it. It's whoever came up with that. I don't know who did it. You credit James Wan, credit whoever over there was figuring that stuff out. It's a smart move because you can pick from so many things in the curio. You can go, oh, what if we did that? What if we did that one doll? What if we did? And all I got to do is have Ed walk by it, and that's the start of the movie. And there it begins. There it starts. I mean, the Warren children could absolutely carry a whole new bucket of franchise movies with them into the modern day, into the 80s and the 90s. They
And
could keep this thing going as long as they want.
if I'm not sorry to interrupt you, if I'm not mistaken, because I've not watched all these movies, I believe one of the Annabelle movies is literally the Warrens leave their house and they let their daughter stay behind with
Yeah.
like a sleepover, and the daughter accidentally unleashes Annabelle in the
Right.
house. So the entire story is like her daughter and her friends being haunted by the creepy objects, and then Ed and Lorraine come home and they're like, "What'd you guys get up to?" And they're like, "Nothing, Mom and Dad. We didn't almost end the world with our haunt." I think that's the premise of the movie. I've never seen it, but I think that's the actual plot.
Don't quote me on it, but I know they've used the Warren kids in more movies. If I'm not, one of them I've seen where it had actually a lot to do with one of the Warren kids. But like even as the kids get older and older, you could just keep the movie that this universe going with them. It's its own little pocket universe, if you will, Damon, where a lot can happen in just the Conjuring universe. But maybe like pick a storyline is my point.
Yeah.
We don't need all the storylines. Just pick one.
I think like I was gonna bring this up anyways, and I'll just say I think this is a perfect segue to say this. Like I think like the most interesting part of The Conjuring 2 in the end is the big revelation about Valak, the demon nun.
Let's talk about Valak. Yes.
Bonnie Aarons is incredible. But well, let me just segue this real quick. That's the best part of the movie to me is the revelation of the
Yes.
nun, the demon nun, and obviously it was very popular because it went on to make two spin-off films. Now, as I said, this is all quote unquote based on a true story, but we all know that I'd say 85 to 90% of it is bullshit. It's in the movie, and that's fine. That's a lot of me. I just talked about Tombstone. My only curiosity is everyone loves Annabelle, everyone loves the nun. And now we got this other conjuring. We had The Devil Made Me Do It. Now we got this other The Last Rites. And they're all based on quote unquote true stories, true hauntings. I'm just like, okay, we're so far off the reservation now as far as like the characters and the reality of who the Warrens were and what they were doing. Why are you not culminating in like having, and maybe that's what The Last Rites is. I don't know for sure. I've not seen it. But like, why are you not just culminating this in like a final showdown? It's Thanos versus the Avengers. It's the Nun versus the Warrens. One last battle. Like, I'm almost curious because when we watched The Devil Made Me Do It, we're like, this just didn't tie anything. All the
Yeah.
Warrens were the only characters, like they were in there, but it didn't feel like a Conjuring movie. And then we watched The Nun 2, and they had this like post credit scene where they called the Warrens, and we're like, ooh, they're gonna connect the universes because the nun, played by Vera Farmiga's real life sister Thaisa Farmiga, we're like, oh, they're gonna find a way to connect. No, like I don't think they are. I think that's it. Like they're just now they're doing this new movie. And I'm like, you've already gone so far off what is supposed to be reality. Why not like give us what I really want, which is like give me the final showdown with Annabelle, give me the final showdown with the nun. Let that be the big conclusion. Because imagine if you went to see Avengers Endgame and Thanos is in it for 5 minutes and that's just the end of it. Like Thanos isn't the villain anymore. You're like, what the fuck? Like we built all this up about Thanos and Thanos isn't actually in the movie? You'd be pissed off.
Damon, I will answer that in categories because I think we have a category just for that.
Okay. So yeah, that's I'm just like you're like I understand you're trying to quote unquote base this on true stories, but it's so far past reality at this point. Like I just want to see like Ed grab a sword and just do a fucking showdown with the nun. Like give me a sword battle with the nun or something.
Sword battle.
Something.
That would be
Yeah,
nice.
you want to talk about the nun. You want to talk about the demon nun Valak, which is played by the great Bonnie Aarons. Is that not like I know everyone loves Annabelle, and I'm not discounting like that is a creepy doll and the whole case and the warning do not open. That's all very creepy. To me, the best part of the Conjuring universe has been the addition of Bonnie Aarons. Now, I'll be honest, the Nun and the Nun 2 movies were not good. Neither one of them were good. We did not give either one of those very good reviews. But this movie is the payoff. This movie is where she is totally fucking creepy and totally fucking scary, and they nailed it. That's the best part of this movie is the nun.
Damon, that's also something I can tackle in categories, to be honest with you. Truth be told, both of these thoughts are go there, but I'll just say this. They have kept one thing consistent with regards to Valak. She's underutilized every single time. Every single time. Most of this is Bill Wilkins. Most of the movie, you are scared of Bill Wilkins. Bill Wilkins is coming after you, but it's because Valak has his soul, and he's using him as this vehicle to release evil into the world. And so you get a very like a very kind of peppered in Valak. And for some reason they only pepper Valak into the Nun movies. And I'm like, well, I showed up for the fucking Nun movie. Why is she barely in these movies too? It's super frustrating, but at the end of the day, it is the best thing to come out of this movie. We've talked about it before, Damon. An absolutely iconic movie monster, a classic movie monster.
Before we get to categories, can we talk about the end of this movie, how they conclude the Conjuring 2, how this movie all comes to an end? Because
Let's do it.
there is a moment where they believe it's all a hoax. They get a video of Janet purposely throwing shit around the kitchen, tearing up the kitchen, and she admits that it's a hoax. But then she later says, basically, the ghost told her to get these people out of here. I'm going to kill your family, is what she says. But at that point, the Warrens were like, well, we now have no power to like continue this investigation because the church is never going to allow us to exercise a home to where we know there's a hoax that's taken place. And so they leave, they go, and they're gone. And while they're on their way out, Ed has an epiphany about the recording that they made of the voices, and he puts it together, and they figure out like the demon or the ghost is being controlled by another demon, and there's actually a real demon in the house, but it's been hiding, which is why Lorraine could never feel its presence because she's got that fucking ability. And they decide to go, and while they're gone, so they're racing back to the Hodgson's house, and Hodgson's get the extreme ghost experience. Like it just takes over. They're fucking the whole family's getting haunted. They're trapped inside the home, and so basically Ed and Lorraine had to bust in and get in the home, and that's where Lorraine continues to have this premonition about Ed dying, and Ed eventually. They battle, more haunting, more crazy shit happens. Eventually, Ed breaks through in the door and he's trying to save Janet, and he grabs Janet. She's about to fall out the window, and he grabs her, and he's falling out the window. And below, they see the broken tree from a lightning bolt, and that's the premonition she kept having of Ed being stabbed through the heart with this big tree branch. And so Lorraine is trying to figure out the nature of this demon. She can't figure it out. And then she remembers she had this premonition back in America where she first met the demon in her dreams, and she remembers that during her dream she was scribbling on her Bible, and she actually scribbled out the demon's name in her Bible. And she knows that demons, you can have dominion over demons if you know their name. And in her premonition, the demon apparently just told her their name. Okay? She scribbles it in the Bible. She figures this out. She goes upstairs, and there's the demon Valak, and there's Ed holding on to Janet, falling out of a window, and he's about to fall out and die, and all the things are going to come true. And Valak is there, and she's screaming, teeth out, and fucking yellow eyes, and then Lorraine goes, I know your name. Valak. Oh, and she just disappears into the ether, and then she saves Ed and Janet. That's the end of the Conjuring. And then Ed gives Janet a cross that he had as a kid. He said, "Make sure you pass this along. It's protected me my whole life." And then they go home and they put the Crooked Man thing back in the fucking curio cabinet of curiosities, whatever. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Now, I know people are probably sick of me saying this. Overall, I still enjoy this movie, but the ending is a little anticlimactic
A little.
because while I do understand, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a pure theologist, but I have read a lot. I believe that is a common theme of the whole demon idea. This has been in other movies too. You see, you have dominion over it if you know its name. That's the whole point of the demon is they don't want you to know who they are because they're like that. That's their power over you because they're not actually like corporal creatures in our world. They're spirits. And for whatever reason, if you know its name, you have dominion over it. Now, my problem is in the early part of the movie, Lorraine has this dream and she says the demon told her its name. And so she scribbled in her Bible and she was like, freaking out and having her panic attack. If you're a demon and you know that the one thing you don't want to do is have the people know your name, why the fuck are you telling the woman in your dream the name?
Because it's convenient storytelling, Damon. That's it.
I mean, am I wrong? Like, did that not catch you watching it the second time where I'm just like, hold on now. The whole plot, the whole end of the movie is, I know your name. It's Valak. And boy, is that the most anticlimactic, like, snap of the Infinity Gauntlet ever. Just saying
I,
a name and then the demon just disappears.
I
No
mean, I,
battle, no exorcism, just Valak. Poof, gone.
it's a very Marvel ending, isn't it? Right? Like when the big bad shows up, like they're easily beaten. It's almost always a thing in Marvel movies. Um, I guess what they could justify is that the whole time they're in the Hodgson house, they don't know that they're dealing with Valak, right?
Right.
Until Valak appears, and she realizes she saw Valak, like she's connecting all her visions from earlier, and she saw Valak, so she's like, oh, okay, those visions from early in the movie. Remember 3 hours ago in the beginning of the movie? That's when I had these visions of this thing, and this thing is here. That's why this, like, fate brought me here. Fate brought me to this demon. So now, but I didn't realize it was this demon. I kept seeing the old man. I kept hearing the old man. So that was the misdirect the whole movie. But it would pay off better if Valak showed themselves much sooner, but that would also create the problem of, well, I just know your name because I've known your name for 3 hours now, but I didn't know you were around. So, and the minute she knows Valak is around, she can use that weapon against Valak. So y- the bases are covered, but how it plays out is anticlimactic. I don't think there's any other way around that. I think everybody who watches this movie is waiting to find out what happens with that scary ass nun, and the truth is not much. The nun shows up, kind of scary for a few seconds, and then we say her name and she disappears. Oh, okay. Well, that was all we needed to do. Got it. Like that's kind of the end.
Yeah, and like as I said, like this is all like I'm not saying that what they're basing this on isn't what's supposedly reality. Like I think that is a real thing. Like you have dominion over a demon if you know its name. I've seen that in other movies. I know that's a real thing. But again, this is still fiction ultimately. Like I'm not saying that you can't use the name to kind of take away some of the demon's power maybe, and then there's still an epic exorcism battle at the end where you have to like really defeat the demon. I'm not saying you have to have a full on fist fight with a demon, but like, just like the exorcism, like just like the exorcist, like it's a long drawn out process to get that demon out of the little girl. And even then the little girl doesn't, she gets saved only because the demon goes in the priest and he chucks himself out a window. Sorry, I just spoiled the exorcist from like 50 years ago. But I guess like I just wanted more because the nun is fucking cool. Like that is like that scene in the house when they first see the nun, when Judy, her daughter's like, "Mom, who is that?" And that's fucking creepy when you look in the corner and you see that fucking demon nun. It is creepy as shit. I want more of that. And you're right. Like the whole idea is like you don't know the nun is there. She's like using the other ghost as a puppet more or less to hide her identity or hide its identity. But the ending is just like Valak. Okay, movie over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm just,
I
I'm
mean,
not, I,
their solution is anticlimactic, but I think they painted themselves in that corner. They had no choice. They're like, "Oh yeah, once Lorraine says its name, it's over. So we better drag that out to the very last fucking minute."
yeah, and I'm just like, you already like you're already making really creative leaps here. You're already like going way off the page with like some of the weird ideas you have here. Why not? Like I was joking about Ed having a sword fight with Valak, but that would almost be better than what we got because Little just walks in. She goes, "I know your name, demon Valak," and he goes, "Ah," and it's just like all this for that. Like that's where we got to. Like give me the like. I want the house shaking, and I want fucking you're throwing holy water on the thing and you're fucking, it's like a battle. Like when you watch The Exorcist, that battle for Reagan, that last 30 minutes is fucking intense. It's really intense. Like what they go through to get that demon out of
Yeah,
her. This was literally like, hold on now. You told me your name, which once again, that seems like a real plot hole. The demon's literally like, you shouldn't know my name, but by the way, it's Valak. That seems anticlimactic to me, right? Like that that seems like this demon's got a really bad plan. Like, you know what? The only way you can beat me is knowing my name. I'm not gonna fucking tell you my name, but it's Valak. Like that just seems like a really bad idea. And then at the end for Lorraine to just pop in and be like, "Demon, I know your name, Valak," and then it just disappears. It just felt like, man, that's what the payoff was. Like that was what we went through all this for was to know a name.
it seems to be the pattern with the nun, so we should fix that.
Yeah. Patrick, let's get into some categories. That is what we came here to do tonight when we're reviewing our movie, The Conjuring 2. And let's get into that. We're going to kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show. And we're going to talk about best performance. So, when it comes to The Conjuring 2, who gets your best performance?
Damon, my best performance goes to Madison Wolfe, who played Janet, the girl that we focus on, who is being possessed in this house. We like to point out when the kids actually do a pretty good job in movies, and I thought Madison it's weird, not for the possessed moments. Those moments I didn't like in particular. I didn't think they were particularly convincing. It was the moments outside of that, the moments where the kid that is Janet, is just suffering from what's going on, and is sad and withdrawn, and life is getting hard because of what's happening to her. Those moments, the realer moments, the actual character moments with her, I found very compelling, and I thought she did a good job working alongside actors like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and making an impression on me this time out.
Yeah, I think she did a really good job, and it was compelling enough, and it worked, and they gave her material to work with, right? Like they gave her enough to work with where it wasn't
Yeah.
just like I gotta have a creepy voice and like jump around the room. Like they gave her enough material to chew on that she actually was able to do a good job. So I agree. Now, Patrick, I'm cheating
Mm.
because our next category, of course, is MVP. I am combining my best performance and MVP into one giant category because my answer is two things, and so why not just combine them? So I hope I'm okay. I'm breaking the rules for our own rules
I
here.
love it when you break the rules.
My best performance and MVP are combined because they are really the same thing. It is Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. And the reason I say it's combined is because they're my MVPs, but I don't really want to pick one over the other for their best performance because they're both great.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I want to compliment about these Conjuring movies, and honestly, the saving grace of these movies, even the ones that I haven't enjoyed, like the Devil Made Me Do It, I didn't particularly like that movie, but they struck gold finding Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as a couple, like putting them together. The chemistry they have, the way they play off each other, you would actually think they're a married couple. And that's so key in movies like this when you're trying to present us a couple and you're trying to convince us that they are a team, for lack of a better word. Like they are a team. And there is so much chemistry and they work so well together. And as I said earlier, like when you're doing a Conjuring movie, I know like that was one of our biggest complaints. You spend 45 minutes away from the Warrens. We want the Warrens. Like you've given us the Warrens as the heroes of this series. Just give us the Warrens. And I wanted more of that. Like when they finally show up, that's when the movie kind of starts for me in a way. Like that's when they get to infield, I'm like, okay, now we're going. Like now the engine is moving. And that's what I wanted. I wanted more of that. So Patrick Wilson, I love, I adore. Vera Farmiga, I love and adore everything they've done. I like a lot of their movies beyond the stuff they've done together. But they really did strike gold by putting those two together for these films, and they work. And so they are best performance, and they're also my MVPs because they really do make the movie.
Everything you just said and more, Damon. It really is. It's their universe. Everything is orbiting around them, and they do a great job. They feel like it feels like they take a lot of pride in it. Like they really want to make these two sympathetic characters. These are not people in real life that I would particularly sympathize with. I'd be like, I don't like hucksters. Why would I be into that? But in this universe where we believe these things are real, where we suspend our disbelief and we buy into the stories that are given to us, Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by these two actors, are people I like, people I enjoy, people that convince me that they believe what's going on is real. I like that.
Yeah, they do a really, really good job. And I know, like, when this got done, when they got done filming the last movie, I had seen posts they'd done on Instagram, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and they were both like, it was almost like it was like they were breaking up because they'd been so close for so many years doing these movies, and like they understood the chemistry they shared, and so like it was like a cathartic moment to say goodbye to these characters because they've been playing them for over a decade. And so they know it works. Like they get it. Like that's the heart of the series. And I think there's a lot of problems with the Nun, like the Nun movies. There's a whole bunch of problems with the Nun movies, but at the heart of it all, it's like, well, these are still Conjuring movies. Give me the Warrens. Like that's really the heart of the series. I'm not saying I don't love the Nun. I do love the Nun, but like the Warrens, going back to my Marvel theory, that's like making a Captain America movie without Captain America. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
It's a
it
Conjuring
is.
movie. We need the Warrens, and the Warrens are the heart of the series. So, Patrick, that's my MVP and best performance for you. Who gets your MVP award for The Conjuring 2?
Damon, my MVP cannot be denied, and that is the great Bonnie Aarons, who plays Valak, aka the Demon Nun. For all the reasons we just talked about, without her in this movie, what do you got? Really, what do you got? It would have just been a showdown with the angry grandpa, like that. It wouldn't have hit the same. Um, Everything about her presence in these movies leaves me wanting more. And that's partly a complaint because they underutilize the nun for some damn reason in everything she's in. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's a scary, scary image. And yeah, I mean, Bonnie, I think, takes a lot of pride in being the nun. I've met her. She's a very nice woman. She takes a lot of pride in it. And on screen, it's probably the most terrifying thing I can think of in the in modern horror. When I go, I have to look at it. I have to be in a dark room with that. That's like, okay, yes, Art the Clown, like what he does is creepy. Okay, I'm talking for the new and modern age. Even a movie that scares me, like The Dark and the Wicked, or a movie like When Evil Lurks, it's an intangible thing. It's a thing that you can't really see. It has to take the form of other things. Bonnie Aaron's The Nun is the scariest thing I can be in the room with, bar none, in the 21st century. I don't know. Somebody tell me what's scarier.
The only thing that comes close for me is the main clown from Hell House LLC. That main clown is fucking creepy as shit.
Kind of up there. Yeah, clowns don't scare me that same way.
No,
They
no,
just
no,
don't.
no, that's what I'm saying.
I
Clowns
know
don't
they don't
scare.
scare you either, but yeah, I know what you mean.
That design was really creepy. Like that,
It's a
just
good
like
design.
the bleeding eyes and everything. But yeah, I mean, like that scene in the house when they see the nun and you see Ed has painted the painting and she goes in the office and it's like it is whoever actually designed that, the actual costume design and everything, and then you combine it with the brilliance of Bonnie Aaron's, like it's a home run out of the park. Like that's you just created an iconic creature of cinema. And and also to their credit, like when the Conjuring films, like they did it with Annabelle too, because Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll. Like the real Annabelle, you look at the case of the real the
Not
real Annabelle,
scary.
you're like this is not scary at all. But that weird creepy porcelain doll, like it looks fucking creepy. They know how to do it. They figured it out. So yeah, I mean Bonnie Aaron's is incredible, and I've never met her, but I've heard so many good things about her that like it makes me enjoy her performance even more because I hear she's just like an incredible person on top of everything else. So
She
not
really
that that
is.
matters really, but I hear that, and I think that's always nice to know. Patrick, next category, best scare. So when it comes to Conjuring 2, We're not big haunted house guys, but there has to be something in here that scared you, I hope. What scares you the most? What is your best scare in The Conjuring 2?
We're staying on theme, Damon, and we're sticking with the nun herself. That painting that Ed paints that sits in his office, there's that great gag where Lorraine goes in to examine the painting and the light is off and the eyes are like glowing in the dark. Like they seem to be just really pronounced in the dark as she turns the light on, and clearly the eyes were not bright like that when the light was on. When the light was shown on her, only in the shadows did the eyes and the evilness of the eyes come alive. It's a great, very simple gag, but super, super effective and just gave you the creeps. You know, it's not a jump scare. It's not one of those. I think it culminates in a jump scare. But just the eyes, the idea that the eyes shine in the darkness, it's such a like almost primal fear. Like imagine if I'm just a caveman out on the plains and I see shining eyes in the dark. I know that that's likely a lion or a tiger or something that's about to eat me. It's the same visceral reaction where you're just like, that should not be. I should not be across from that thing right now. So simple, so effective.
So it's funny. Our scares are almost culminated, are basically culminated in the same exact scene because my best scare is the one I mentioned earlier, and I probably shouldn't have because I was leading to this moment. But that is when Judy stops dead in her tracks in the hallway and she's just staring down the hallway. And she's like, "Mom, who is that?" And you look down to the end of the hallway and you see the shadowy figure of the nun for the first time.
Yeah.
It is so fucking creepy. Like I said, not necessarily scary in like the traditional sense of like you're
Right.
jumping out of your seat or whatever, but like just that figure, that ominous, creepy figure, because the entire character is shrouded in black, but then you have this pasty white face and the yellow eyes. And they have it in the shadows just perfectly. And so when Judy is just stopped dead in her tracks and she's like, "Mom, who is that?" And Lorraine comes over and you just see the shadowy figure of the nun. You're like, "Oh fuck." And nothing happens. The nun goes in the room, and then the scene continues. And it's also very creepy, as you said, with the eyes, and even that whole scene. Even though it does eventually culminate in a jump scare when the nun crawls out from the painting. It's a great scene all the way around. But just that moment of like the scared look on Judy's face, and then calling her mom over and her mom, and then they pan the camera down, and they do that great movie thing where it's like the end of a hallway, so it looks like it's a mile away, but it's
Yeah.
actually like 5 feet away. But they do a great job, and just that shadowy, creepy figure of the nun standing there at the end of the hallway is fucking perfect. It's a great scene.
She's great, dude. The nun always wins.
Yeah, more nun. We keep saying that. We said that for like
More
four
fucking
reviews
nun,
now.
please, finally.
Yeah. Next category. Now, I want you to explain this. So I'm going to name it, but then you're going to explain it. Can you and your partner survive this horror film? So, Patrick, please explain.
Damon, even though you and I are truly hetero life mates at this point, I was watching this movie thinking it's a husband and wife team. And so I said, well, Damon's got his long-term girlfriend that he's been with, who I adore myself. I've known her for quite a long time now, and I've got my wife that I've been with forever. And I thought, how funny would it be to put our spouses in these situations with us? So it's more of our opinion of our respective partners being in this situation where we are now the Warrens. Do you think you and your partner can handle this situation? Can you solve the problem that is the Hodgson hauntings?
So, let me put myself in the premise of this is all real. Okay?
Of
Yeah.
course, yes. We're
Yeah.
playing the game, Damon.
Now, right off the bat, if I do know and I've studied the idea that you have to say the demon's name to end it, I'm a researcher. That's what I do for a living. I research stuff. I'm on the computer constantly reading court documents and all kinds of shit. So, like, that's part of my job. So, I feel like even though I wouldn't have had the premonition, I could have done, because there actually is a real demon or like a fictional demon in mythology known as Valak. Like, they didn't make that up. So, I feel like if I did enough research of like a demon nun, I could do enough research to find out its name. Now, I will say, my girlfriend teeters on she wants to, she doesn't believe, but she wants to believe. Like, she loves creepy hauntings and like, as we said, all grew up as kids. We all thought we saw something that wasn't there or whatever. So she actually kind of digs that. So I think she would be fucking terrified, and I'd be the one to have to step up and be like, demon be gone. So only because of the simplicity of how you get rid of the demon, I think it would work because I would go to a library and I would find this demon. And if I didn't, I would literally just print out the name of every demon in fucking history and just start rattling them off until I got to the one it was. I'd be like, Adam, Peter, John, Nathan, Valak, oh, disappear. So if that's all I got to do, I could just name off fucking demons and eventually I'd get to Valak.
The culmination of the movie is 13 minutes because Damon has to read all of these
It's
names from this
it's
book.
that it's that scene from Ted where they rattle off the names where Mark Wahlberg's like, "Oh, is it a white trash name?" And he starts rattling. He's like,
Oh,
"Becky,
that's
Becky,
right.
just Becky, Sally." All that would be me with the demon names. I'd just be rattling off demon names until the demon disappeared. What about you, Patrick? Are you and your significant other, by the way, lovely wife of yours, are you guys making it out alive?
You know how I am, Damon. I'm ever the skeptic, and if we were the Warrens indeed, I'd be the skeptical one of the two of us. But I like to stare down the dark stuff, right? Like I kind of it would be exciting for me. It would be something I'd be very game for. My wife, however, 100% buys into this stuff. She believes it's out there. She's not particularly religious. She's just like, no, I think it's out there. But here's the rub, Damon. She's an absolute scaredy cat. She's one of the she watched the back half of The Conjuring 2 with me because I had to watch it in two parts because I was so busy. So she sat there and watched with me. she There was a part where Bill Wilkins like popped up under the water and she just went like just like an audible just scream in the house. She could not handle it. And I think once actually confronted with these things, while she'd be very like game to be like, no, I'll set the house, I'll call the corners, like I'll get this whole thing prepped, I'll get the salt circle going. And then the minute Bill Wilkins shows up, she'd be like, bye, I'm not staying in here. Why the hell would I be in this house? And many times while we were watching Conjuring 2, she was absolutely screaming and in pure terror. So I'd be going it alone and I'd end up with a tree stump through my chest.
See, I disagree, and here I'm gonna give you a real quick reason why. I think yes, your wife would probably abandon you in that moment, but I feel like knowing you as well as I do, you wouldn't be like Valak be gone. You'd be like Valak, can I have a job? So like you survive because you're like, you know what, Valak, you're pretty fucking cool. Like, can you give me some powers and shit? Like, can we team up here? Like,
You're not wrong. I am on the darker side of things. I'd be like, do we really need to fight or could we hang out? Like
yeah,
I need someone to go with me to the goth club tonight. We're in England. We might as well do it.
like a little demon high five, and you become partners. You know, like Patrick and Valak, like something like that.
Maybe that's entirely possible. You're not
I
wrong.
just I think it's possible. Patrick, next category. What are we looking for in the next Conjuring film? Now, I'm not going to ruin it. I know you hate spoilers. Okay, I'm not trying to spoil anything for you. But the new Conjuring movie. I'm just going to mention this because this is what it is based on a quote unquote true life investigation of the Smurl family. Now, I know nothing about this haunting. I just know it's real or real, quote unquote,
Supposedly,
the
yes.
Smurl family. So this is the Hodgins. This is whatever the fuck the family was in the first
The
Conjuring. This is the new
Lutzes
one.
and all these
Yeah,
people.
this
Yeah.
is the new one. This is the Smurls. So it's another. So what do we want out of this final, or what is being posed as the final Conjuring? At least with Ed and Lorraine Warren, like their involvement is supposed to be the last one.
Damon, I want Valak to return. I know we spent most of this podcast just basically saying more Valak, please. So let's just do it. Let's do Damon Martin's Avengers style showdown where Valak comes back, but this time I don't know. She's got earplugs in. What can I tell you? Like, give me some reason that these Schmerl people are being haunted by Valak, and Valak finally has the leg up. If Lorraine had this vision all the way back in The Conjuring 2 that something was going to kill Ed, and that, by the way, that went in Devil Made Me Do It. I think it was the same thing. She keeps having these visions that Ed is going to be killed. Ed is going to be killed. So let it be that that the nun finally has him dead to rights. No pun intended. The movie's called Last Rites. Let it be the situation where she's got him, and now it's just like, but can I stop the evil before it's all too late? Make this movie about the damn nun already. I know I'm not getting my wish, Damon. I know, I'm just pumping hot air out there into the world. Give me the nun, for God's sake. Finally, give me the nun in full force. We need it. I'm desperate for it.
I know I'm not going to get what I want either, and that is basically either the nun or Annabelle or one of these other stories from the other ones coming full circle. And the nun
Yeah.
would be my preferred, but like even if it's Annabelle, which I don't think it's going to be that either, but just give me a full circle story because this is all fictional at this point. Like we're all off the reservation when it comes to like these stories. These are like I mentioned with the Enfield poltergeist. Like the Warrens really had no involvement. They were there for like 10 minutes and left. They didn't do any of the stuff they actually
Yeah.
did in the movie besides record the voices and stuff like that. So like we're so far beyond what the Warrens actually did, and I don't know if I'm sure based on this being a quote unquote real life haunting that they probably did talk to the Smurls or the Smurfs or whatever they're called. But how involved they were, how much they exercised that, I have no idea, and I don't know that really even matters. So that's why I'm saying like I don't care that this supposedly happened. I don't care that there was a real investigation. None of that matters to me. We are in fictional Warren universe now. Give me the nun, give me Annabelle, give me some version of this story that wraps everything in a nice bow and ends. Either Ed croaks at the end, and that's the big story, is like he doesn't make it and Lorraine has to move on without him, or, like they say this is their final case. That's the way this thing's being posed or whatever. Maybe the reason it's his final case is because Ed dies, or Ed, get like in the last movie he had a heart attack, so
Right.
he's kind of incapacitated. Just go kind of he has a stroke, he has a heart, he has something that incapacitates that prevents him from doing this anymore. Whatever it is, bring it full circle. Whether it's the nun, it's Annabelle, give me something that's like, ooh, we get a nice little bow on the story, and that's how we're going to wrap it up. Because you're really going to make this the last story for Ed and Lorraine Warren, the last appearance of Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. And maybe it is. I mean, I don't know for sure. I have to imagine, like, the actors themselves, like, I don't want to make 19 of these, because they are
I want
successful
to
in
make
other parts of
19
the
of those checks, though.
yeah, but like I'm sure like Patrick Wilson's a successful actor, Vera Farmiga's a successful actor. I'm sure like they do enjoy these movies, but I think they want to get out while the getting's good. Like they don't want to run this into the ground. They don't want to make
Yeah.
19 Conjuring movies and like at the end it's like there is a sword fight with a demon. So wrap it up in a bow and give us like a satisfying conclusion where we get like Annabelle the nun, something of that. We're like, oh shit, it's the real showdown. I would love that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is probably going to play out like a traditional haunted house story. The Warrens show up and they got to fuck shit up and they beat a demon by saying its name or something. Like, I feel like there's a formulaic way that this is probably going to happen. Eh, you know, let's just say I don't have the highest of expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll hear our full review on that in just a few weeks' time.
Yeah, so the Conjuring: The Last Rites comes out September 5th, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the date it comes out, and we'll be reviewing it right after, which is why we're doing The Conjuring 2 tonight. But overall, listen, I nitpicked a lot, and I gave a lot of reasons why this movie kind of fell apart a little bit in the second viewing. But I'm going to circle back to my original point. I still enjoyed this movie better than the original. I still enjoyed it more than the third one. I definitely enjoyed it more than the Nun films. And if they would have whittled this down to an hour and 40 minutes, I think it would actually be a pretty decent movie. It's just way, way too long.
Whatever is here, because I can't talk about a movie that doesn't exist for this 2 hour and 10 minute version or however long it is. It's too long. I got bored at haunting and scares a minute. Is it my do I hate this movie? No. Is it my favorite in the Conjuring universe? Probably, but that's not saying a lot. I'm not a huge fan of the Conjuring universe. Ultimately I probably land on this being the best one, and it's just because of Valak, and even then Valak's not in it enough anyway. So don't look to me for your Conjuring, compliments and you and if you really like the Conjuring universe in general, don't look for me to be praising it in particular. It's never really gotten me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I appreciate what it is, and I appreciate people
Yeah.
that love it. So I'm certainly not going to knock anyone who loves these films, but it's not really for me. And while I will say I think I did enjoy The Conjuring 2 way more than the other ones, that on a sliding scale, that's still not my favorite film in the world. It's a hard comparison because as a general rule, I'm not like when you go back and listen to our other episodes of The Nun, The Nun 2, and The Conjuring. The Conjuring we gave a pretty decent. I think we gave that a pretty positive review overall, like for what it was. And I think weirdly, even though we're nitpicking it apart, The Conjuring 2 is still better. We did not like The Nun and The Nun 2 whatsoever, and we didn't like The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So we're not batting 1,000 already here. So like you have to lower your expectations when we say like this isn't bad for a Conjuring film.
We're just not those guys. We're not the guys you come to for Conjuring praise.
Yeah, not those guys. That's all right though. But The Conjuring Last Rites is coming out in a couple of weeks. We will be reviewing that, and we will give our honest opinions, and we'll see how we feel about the final chapter of the Ed and Lorraine Warren story. With that being said, Patrick, we're gonna get out of here. Obviously, we always want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. Make sure you check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Over on our YouTube channel, just search Rewind of the Living Dead on YouTube and you will find our channel. Like and subscribe us over there. Even if you don't watch us over there, it means a lot to us in terms of search results, algorithm, all that good stuff. So, YouTube, Rewind of the Living Dead over there. And you can also check out our website, rewindofthelivingdead.com. And please, if you want to get early access to these episodes, you want bonus episodes, we are currently reviewing Alien Earth on our Patreon,
That's
only
right.
on Patreon.
Only.
So, if you want those episodes, you want early access to these episodes. Like when we review The Conjuring Last Rites, we will record it most likely on a Thursday night, the night we see the movie. You will get it that night.
Yeah.
Maybe
Hot
like
off the
3 a.m.,
press.
so you may get it the next morning, but you're going to get it immediately. So, if you like our episodes, you want to get earlier access, $5 a month, patreon.com/rewind of living dead. Easiest $5 a month. Not only will you get early access to get some other cool shit, you're going to support us, which
That's right.
means the world to us. So patreon.com/rewind of living dead. Check it out, and you will get early access to this episode, to our Alien Earth episodes, which are not getting posted anywhere else. Check it out. Also, if you have questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, your opinion on the Conjuring films, maybe you love the Conjuring films, hit us up anytime on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That is rotlivingdead@gmail.com. Or you can find us on social media. All of our channels, just search Rewind of the Living Dead. We are on Instagram, we are on Twitter/X, and we are also on Facebook. And you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And a big thank you, as always, for everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.
Peace.
Valak.